Airbnb, and I had been up since like 3 o'clock in the morning because I had to fly out here early, and I was really tired, but I was also really hungry. So I was like, I'm gonna go walk around the neighborhood. This is like a cute little neighborhood with lots of cafes. I'm gonna go grab something to eat. Put my stuff down, walked around the corner, sat down in a little cafe, took a bite of a taco, had a sip of beer, and stuff started falling off the wall, and the ground started like undulating. And the first thing I thought was, I fucking knew this was gonna happen. I knew it. I super had a premonition about it. I told Chris, True, the night before, and also my mom, was like, if there's an earthquake while I'm in Mexico City, I'm going to go to the American Embassy, and here's a screenshot of where it is, and here's a screenshot of my hotel, and both of them were like, you've traveled a lot by yourself, and you've never said anything like this before. And I was like, I don't know, I just feel weird about stuff. And then boom, and I just knew it, which was bizarre. The next thought I had was, oh shit, I should have read about what you do in an earthquake. Because even though I had the premonition, I didn't look up anything. So I was just like, do we go underneath the door? Do we like run into the... We don't run into the buildings. We run outside. Cool. We run outside. So it's terrifying.
God. Do you speak Spanish well?
No, not very well. But I'll tell you what, my Spanish got real good real fast.
Yeah.
After like crisis moments, I was like, okay, I know some words. It's tapping in from like 15 years ago. Got it. My Spanish is okay. I mean, it's not okay. Horrible, but like I could at least understand.
Well, it was enough that you sort of got you through. It wasn't like
brains are amazing.
Yeah,
my brain was like. Also, bodies are amazing because I mean I was there for like I said 28 hours, and it was probably 24 hours after the earthquake before I realized, oh, I gotta pee. Like I just didn't pee forever. So I was like evacuating shit and like running scared and like whatever, and my body just like I didn't think about it. I pee all the time. Like, I'm a big peer. And I'm drinking water. But yeah, I just didn't even think about it. And when I finally realized I had to pee, it was like, wow, body, good work. Because that would have been really frustrating, like, running around a falling apart city, being like, God, I wish I could find a bathroom.
So, and I'd like not to like delve into this too much more, because I know that this is still a thing. Like, just to ask, because I've never been in an earthquake or known anybody. Like, how long is this? What's the span of the actual world ending there?
Dude, so this was a very long earthquake, and I don't know anything about earthquakes either.
Okay.
So when it started happening, and like I ran out into the street, I had the thought like, this is long. This seems long. Is time slowing down for me? This seems longer than it should be. Aren't earthquakes supposed to be like a couple seconds, and then you're like, oh, what happened? The entirety of it lasted for 4 minutes. The most intense part that I felt was 2 minutes. That's an improv scene, y'all. 2 minutes is a long time for the world to be crumbling around you. It was weird. So yeah, it was apparently I was an incredibly long one. But I also did not go into research about like, well, it's the longest earthquake.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Well,
I have so many more questions, but I do not want to make you talk about it.
Yeah.
This is like, I haven't really talked about it very much. I don't know why this just erupted out of me. We just started talking about travel, and it's like, here you go, you guys. Here's my secret.
Well, this is the craziest travel story I've ever heard in my life.
Yeah.
Like, you got off the plane, and then all of a sudden, and also that it was the anniversary of it.
The anniversary, and I got a text from my Airbnb host after I left the airport, and he was like, hey, there's going to be, like, every year on the anniversary of this earthquake, we do these drills all over the city. So if you see people, like, doing drills or whatever, just follow along with whatever's going on. I'm, like, reading that. I'm like, that's fucking daunting and terrifying that I got that message. And then on the radio of the car that I was in, it was, like, the president was speaking in this very, like, gloomy tone, and there was like a moment of silence, and then like a child read a poem, and then there was a song. It was just all very like sad and like just ominous feeling. The amazing thing about my Airbnb host, he was like in communication as much as he could be throughout this whole thing. The building that I was staying in collapsed, split in half. In my room, split in half, so half of my room was like crumbled, the other half of the room was still standing. Dude went back into the building, got my suitcase, which as soon as I saw that my building had collapsed, I was like, writing off my suitcase, never see that again. I got my passport, I got my phone, fuck it, I'm getting out of here. He went back in, got my suitcase, texted me like midnight that night. He was like, just so you know, I sent somebody in to go get your bag. We haven't. We weren't able to get all of your bathroom stuff because the bathroom collapsed. So sorry about that. I was like, 5 stars, 5 stars, 5 stars. You can't actually stay in this place, everybody, but this host is great because this place doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
I know.
I have goosebumps.
It was bizarre. It was bizarre.
That is so crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I totally appreciate the idea of being all like, well, I don't need that anymore. Like, bag gone.
Yeah, it's like, you know, when you're in like crisis situations, it's like the most important things float to the top and all of the other stuff goes away. And in review, after I got home, Chris and I were very proud of the elegance of our communication because it was like no muss, no fuss. I was like, I'm okay. I'm in an earthquake just happened. I'm totally fine. Get me the fuck out of here. And like immediately he's just like, cool, the flight's here, but there's damage to the airport, so I don't think you can get there tonight. I'm like, cool, tomorrow. What's the thing? You can get this flight. Cool, great. It's like, it was so like complete and precise. It's great.
Laura, I can't believe your phone worked.
It was on and off. It was very frustrating because it was like, I wanted to at least like, I mean, not very many people knew that I was gone because I was like, I just kind of wanted to just sneak away. Mm-hmm. So like my mom knew, Chris knew, like maybe a handful of people from the theater knew that I was gone. So it was like, I was getting weird text messages from like students and troops and stuff, and like, hey, we need a room to rehearse in. And I'm just like, oh god, no, stop clogging up my phone. I can't now, bye.
Wow, that's so super intense.
It's super intense.
Whew. I was like, I don't know that I've ever been through any natural disasters. I mean, I guess, you know, hurricanes, but in a very low stakes situation. I mean, yeah, because I'm from up north, but in Boston and stuff, I suppose a snowstorm, no, nothing. Yeah.
Hurricanes and snowstorms, you kind of know they're going to happen, which is like...
They do prep you.
Yeah. Which is like, I ended up like meeting up with this wonderful family that rescued me very shortly after the earthquake, and ended up spending the rest of my time there with them. And they were so kind, and they were like, I mean, you're from New Orleans, like, you have like hurricanes you got to deal with. I'm like, yeah, but we know a week in advance that something's about to happen. Y'all don't know anything until like 30 seconds before your world falls apart.
Yeah.
It's not comparable, sweet people. Thank you for trying to like make me sound like I was a badass, but not.
So crazy.
Mm-hmm.
Man, whew. And makes me want to like look it up and look at the damage and see how it's doing. How long ago was this?
That was the middle of September. So I was there, I think I flew in on Tuesday. It happened Tuesday afternoon. The reason why I was terrified, obviously, for the next 28 hours that I was there was because of the aftershocks. Everybody was like, it's going to be a bad aftershock. It's going to be a bad aftershock because this was a big one. And like, also everything's kind of like falling apart. So the city felt very unstable. So it was like, I can't go anywhere that's going to feel safe except for like sit in the middle of a park away from a lot of buildings. So I was terrified of the aftershocks, and the aftershock happened on Saturday morning, which is when I was scheduled to fly out. So if I had to live through 2 of those, I would have lost my damn mind. But fortunately, I got a flight, so.
That's so wild.
Yeah. Gross.
Man, every one of these interviews has been something entirely different.
I know, really could not have been more different.
Wow. No, yeah, like there's been zero tonal similarity.
I love that
across
for y'all.
This whole thing.
Good. Maybe that's what you brought out in me, where I felt like safe and comfortable to say that out loud, because like you would kind of preface this whole thing with like, it's been very diverse so far. It's like, great.
Yeah, man, we are getting such a widespread, and it's so nice. I mean, like again, we can talk about comedy whenever you like. Like I was gonna say, because like, yeah, no, I mean, but yeah, glad you're okay.
Me too. Thanks.
Here's a post-tragedy kind of a funny story. Maybe this can segue us into the next thing, but it's like it's not going to start out good. So sorry. So 9/11's a thing, right? That's the bad opener. So right after I was living in Portland, Maine at the time. And I remember being like, oh my God, and I had just lived there. I had just moved. I literally moved to Portland, Maine like a week before it happened.
Oh my God.
And then, so my parents were like, ah! And so I went there and all of a sudden everything was happening. I was calling all my friends, trying to make sure they were okay. Everything was okay. But as soon as I finished, I was in Portland, Maine to do an internship at a theater. And when I finished my internship, I immediately moved back. And my parents were like, hey, okay, that's cool. Great. People love New York City. However, do you have to move there right now when it seems to be the target of life?
Right.
Of like craziness? And I was like, I really do. I do. I have to be there. I feel like I need to be there. So I'm going back. And I was also working in theater. And for me, it seemed like that's where theater was. So it's like, hey, life's hard sometimes. I just have to be doing theater. And that's what it needs to be.
Yeah.
So I moved into this apartment in Harlem, and the anniversary came up, and super weirdly, they decided to do a parade. I may have told you this story before. So I'm living on 143rd and Broadway, and the event occurred at the end of Broadway, at the end of Manhattan itself, and they decided to do a parade down Broadway, so that the end of the parade, when it arrived, was at the time of the first plane hit. Now, the time of the first plane hit is like, I want to say like 8:30 a.m. or 9 a.m. or something like that. So the parade had to start at 3:30 in the morning.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm asleep in my bed, and the windows are facing the Broadway right there. That's where my bedroom faced. And all of a sudden I hear like... And I'm like, what is happening right now? Because marching band's not usually the loud noises you're hearing outside your window in Harlem, right? So I wake up, like rub my eyes, open the window, look outside, and it's like a crazy parade down the street. I'm like, is it morning? What's happening? And it's 4 in the morning. They're walking down. I mean, and it's not a happy parade. There's a band playing, but everyone's like sad and walking slowly. And of course they're walking slowly, and that's why they'd start early, because they're going to walk, 12 blocks down the thing. 120 blocks rather. And it was just the weirdest, like when you're talking about they're doing the moment of silence and all the discussions, they were like, this is how we're going to do it. We're just going to have a parade and walk down the thing. It was like a funeral parade. And I was just like, okay. So I lived with 4 people at the time, and all of the roommates got up and we just went outside. Yeah. We were like, well, okay, let's do it. So we went out, and it wasn't the kind of neighborhood that was very chummy. Like, you weren't like, hey, neighbors. I mean, I was friends with my neighbors, and that's a whole other story, but we just walked out, and it was like people from all different walks of life were just standing there being like, yeah, man, crazy, wild. Yeah. I was like, how are you? You doing good? Okay. So it was like such a weird connecting moment in that situation, but being there in that space further solidified, okay, I gotta be in New York, and theater is the right thing, because if I didn't follow the theater path, I wouldn't be able to be here for this moment. And oh my God, so wild.
I think that like the thing that I ultimately took out of that experience in Mexico City was, man, people are great. Like, the people that I ended up with, and like everybody around, I mean, everybody in the streets was just like checking in on each other. Neighbors were like running into each other, being like, what do you need? I've got water. Do y'all need a blanket? Like, it just, I mean, it's a giant city. There's like, what, 20 million people that live in Mexico City? You would expect these people to be like assholes to each other. Well, you wouldn't expect that. But you get kind of like, what's my word? My word is this.
stand up.
Yeah, you know, you get callous to like people, whatever. But it was
in large cities you do,
right. And it was just like it felt like this incredible community, and I was and like me being a tourist and like being by myself and not speaking Spanish very well and just being like just folded into this beautiful community. I was like, man, that's what I'm taking out of this. So a couple months down the road, if I'm like, people are dicks, and you're like, no, they're really not. It's just a weird situation where this person's being a dick in this moment. People are wondering.